Today's story explores how silence can reveal more than any confession, and how walking away without answers is sometimes the strongest form of self-respect. It's about recognizing when love turns into erasure, and choosing yourself before you disappear completely. Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. The house was silent when she opened the door. Not, no one home silent. Dead silent. The kind of silence that presses against your ears and makes your own heartbeat sound like it's echoing through a tunnel. She called out once, casual. Then again, uncertain. Then she stopped calling altogether. Because by then, she had already noticed. The coat rack was empty. The shoes by the door gone. The coffee mug that always sat on the counter, unwashed, because I was too lazy to rinse it, not there. The dent on the pillow on the left side of the bed, puffed flat. Like no one had ever slept there. I had removed myself from her life with surgical precision. And I didn't leave a single trace. No note. No yelling. No accusations carved into mirrors. Just absence. And that absence was loud. Louder than any fight we'd ever had. Louder than the way her voice used to crack when she said, "I love you," but avoided eye contact. She had left for dinner with her boss, Everett, the same man who called her at 11:37 p.m. on our anniversary to run through client numbers. The same man who started texting her so often she turned off notifications. The same man whose name she used to say like it tasted bitter, until one day it didn't. I didn't need to read the messages. I didn't need to follow her. I didn't need proof. I just needed the silence. It told me everything. So I packed everything I owned that could fit in a trunk and a duffel bag. Took exactly 45 minutes. Didn't rush. Didn't hesitate. Didn't even look back at the framed photo of us in Chicago, the one where she was smiling, but I now realize I wasn't in her eyes anymore. She came back smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, and I was already long gone. I found out later that she laughed when she saw the closet. It wasn't the reaction I expected, or maybe it was, and I just didn't want to believe it. According to the neighbor, who was outside smoking at the time, she stood there for a full 10 seconds after opening the bedroom door, stared at the empty side where my things used to be, and let out this soft, weird little laugh. Not the kind you let slip when you're relieved, or sad, or scared. It was more like the sound you make when you realize the joke's been on you the whole time. But the joke wasn't over. I waited 3 days before replying to any of her texts. That's how long it took her to shift from confusion to denial to anger. The first message was, "Dalton, are you okay?" Then, "I'm freaking out. Please say something." Then, "This is childish. Whatever you think is going on, it's not what it looks like." What it looks like. That phrase, it followed me like a shadow. Because the truth is, she wasn't wrong. I never caught her with Everett. I didn't have photos or voice memos or any of the smoking gun evidence people post on Reddit. No lipstick on collars. No hotel receipts. Just the pieces. The weird energy. The drift. The smell of cologne that didn't belong in our car. The nervous laugh she gave when I asked why she took off her wedding ring before meetings. All little things. But they added up. And eventually, the silence did the math for me. But the real twist came on the 4th day. That's when she showed up at Owen's. Now, Owen didn't know she was coming. I sure as hell hadn't told him. I was out getting groceries, trying to pretend I still knew how to function like a normal person, and when I got back, there she was. Sitting on the front steps like a storm cloud in a black blazer and designer heels, holding a takeout cup with my name written on it in Sharpie. "I brought you coffee," she said, as if that would rewind time. I didn't say anything, just walked past her and into the house. I could feel her behind me, hovering, trying to decide whether to follow or not. She did. The first thing she said after the door closed was, "Is this about Everett?" I stared at her. She looked tired, but not devastated. Worried, but not guilty. Her makeup was faded and there was a smudge of something red on her blouse. Lipstick maybe, or wine, or a lie that hadn't dried properly. I asked her flat out, "Are you in love with him?" She didn't answer right away. She sat down, crossed her legs like this was a meeting, not a marriage falling apart. Then she said, "No, just that." One word. But it was empty, like she'd practiced it in the mirror. That's when I realized she still didn't get it. She thought this was about catching her in a lie. She didn't understand. The lie wasn't what broke me. It was the part of her that let the lie grow. After she left Owen's place that night, I thought I was done. I thought I'd said my final words to her. Or at least, the only ones that mattered. But apparently, she wasn't finished playing house. The next morning, Owen and I went back to the old place to grab some tools I'd forgotten. I wasn't planning on going inside, just a quick garage run, in and out. But the minute we pulled up, I knew something was off. The lights were on, curtains open. Her car wasn't there, but the front door was cracked half an inch. I should have turned around. I should have told Owen to wait in the truck. But I didn't. Inside, everything was too clean. Not just tidy, erased. Photos gone. Our wedding canvas that used to hang over the TV? Missing. It looked like a house staged for a realtor's walkthrough. Like no one had ever lived there, let alone fought over burnt toast and watched bad movies on rainy Saturdays. That's when I saw the trash can in the kitchen. It was full, which was weird for her. She's one of those empty it every night types. I lifted the lid without thinking. Inside, tissues, a broken ceramic spoon rest, and a folded sheet of notebook paper with her handwriting all over it. No envelope. No signature. Just a list. Column A, reasons to stay with Dalton. Column B, reasons to move forward with Everett. I swear, I stood there with that paper in my hand for 10 minutes, not even breathing. Her logic was written out like she was choosing between two job offers. Bullet points. Pros and cons. Under my name, she'd written things like, knows how to fix things, won't cheat. And, this one hit hard, still thinks I'm good. Under Everett's, drives a BMW. Understands ambition. Says I'm wasting my best years. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a breakdown of my entire identity, reduced to a column of check marks like I was a used appliance she was debating replacing. I didn't take the list. I didn't burn it. I just put it back in the trash where she left it. Because some things belong in the garbage. I wasn't even back at Owen's when my phone rang. Blocked number. I almost let it go to voicemail. I usually do, but something in my gut told me to pick up. It wasn't instinct. It was closer to dread. The kind of feeling you get when you already know something's wrong and you're just waiting to be told. At first, there was silence. I thought it was a robocall until I heard someone breathe. Then a man's voice, low and cautious. Dalton? I froze. I didn't recognize the voice, but he said my name like it wasn't the first time. I asked who it was. He didn't answer that. Instead, he said, I don't know how much you know, but you should be careful. Careful. That word echoed. He didn't sound threatening. He sounded like someone caught in something he couldn't get out of. Like he was warning me, not trying to intimidate me. Why are you calling me? I asked. I was parked outside a gas station, keys still in the ignition, windshield fogging up slowly. You don't know me, he said, but I know Maribel. I've worked with her, and I think she's about to set you up for something. I don't know what, but she's planning something, and you need to protect yourself. The line went dead before I could say another word. For a while, I just sat there staring at my own reflection in the glass. Not scared exactly, just thrown off my axis. That was the part that got to me. Not that someone called. Not that he knew my name. But that he sounded nervous. Genuinely nervous. And I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't lying. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of what she might do next, but because, for the first time since I left, I wondered if the affair wasn't the worst part. What if Everett wasn't the real danger? What if she had more than just lies tucked away? And what if I was never supposed to leave in the first place? The next morning, I drove to her office building. Not to confront her. I didn't want another scene. I was done playing the betrayed husband in a soap opera she was directing. I went because I needed answers. Real ones, not the carefully packaged denials she gave me at Owen's or the pathetic text messages that came in waves of guilt and manipulation. I parked across the street, facing the side entrance I knew she used when she didn't want to talk to coworkers. She wasn't there. Her car wasn't there either. But I noticed something strange. The office lights were on, even though it was Saturday. A few people were coming and going, dressed too casually for a weekday, but too polished to be running errands. Some kind of internal event, maybe a retreat, team-building workshop, something corporate and forgettable. I almost left. But then I saw Everett. He came out of the front door with another man and a woman I didn't recognize, laughing at something, holding a to-go coffee, and wearing that smug, untouchable look I'd imagined 100 times. But it wasn't just seeing him that made my pulse spike. It was the way he looked around before walking off. Like he was checking for someone. Or something. Like he had secrets. I waited until they were gone. Then I went inside. The security desk was unmanned. Lucky me. And the elevator still worked without a keycard. The office floor was empty, quiet, and smelled like printer paper and cold coffee. I didn't know what I was looking for. I told myself I just wanted to see her desk, maybe read something, maybe get a sense of who she was here when I wasn't around. But what I found was worse than anything I imagined. In the hallway leading to the executive conference room, there was a wall of photos, black and white candids framed in sleek metal, with little placards underneath. Employee awards, company retreats, birthdays, holiday parties, corporate branding, meant to feel intimate. One of them showed Maribel. She was standing in front of a window, smiling, and Everett was beside her, not touching her, not even looking directly at her. But her hand, the left one, was behind her back, curled just slightly. I don't know how to explain it, but I knew that pose. That was how she stood when she was hiding something. I'd seen her do it at the airport once, when she surprised me with concert tickets. And again, when she lied about where she spent a Saturday afternoon with her cousin who, apparently, I never met because he lives in Vancouver. There was no wedding ring on her finger, and the date below the photo was 3 months before I left. My mouth went dry. She'd taken it off for work, not just during meetings, for photos, for public-facing branding. She had scrubbed me out of her professional image like I was a stain that didn't match her future. I backed away from the wall and nearly bumped into a woman carrying a laptop. She looked startled. "Are you here for the afternoon session?" I nodded without thinking. She smiled and said, "Grab a name tag from the table. We're in Suite C." I didn't grab a name tag. I didn't go to Suite C. I walked straight out of that building with one thought running through my head. If she could erase me from her world that easily, what else had she rewritten? It was waiting for me when I got back to the truck. An envelope. No stamp. No handwriting. Just a plain white rectangle tucked beneath my windshield wiper like a parking ticket from someone too polite to curse. I looked around immediately. Nothing. No one suspicious. No cars idling nearby. No footsteps. It was broad daylight in a semi-empty corporate lot, and still, I felt like I was being watched. The envelope wasn't sealed. Inside was a single photograph and a typed note on half a sheet of paper, cleanly cut like it came from an office printer. The photo was grainy, taken at night, but clear enough. It showed Maribel, sitting in the driver's seat of our car, except it wasn't parked at home, or work, or anywhere I recognized. And she wasn't alone. There was a man in the passenger seat. Not Everett. Someone younger, wearing a hoodie pulled halfway over his face. They weren't touching, but the window was down, and they were leaning toward each other like people who weren't talking about spreadsheets. The note said, "You're not looking at the right man." No signature. No explanation. I read that line 10 times before I even reacted. Then again. It didn't make sense. All this time I thought Everett was the story. The late dinners. The executive meetings. The perfume. The emotional shift. It all pointed to him. But what if he wasn't the only one? What if he was just the decoy? I sat there with the photo in my lap, the engine off, my hand on the key, but no will to turn it. Something wasn't adding up. And the more I looked at that hoodie in the photo, the more I felt like I'd seen it before, somewhere closer to home than I ever imagined. The photo haunted me, not just because of what it showed, but because of what it didn't. It didn't show Everett's smirk, or a hotel lobby, or any of the things I thought I was supposed to find. It showed something quiet, casual, like it wasn't an affair, like it was a routine. The more I stared at the guy in the hoodie, the more that sick, slow realization began to crawl up my spine. It wasn't the face I recognized. It was the sweatshirt. It had this tear on the left cuff. A small thing. But I remembered it, because I was the one who noticed it months ago when I helped him move out of his apartment. Jared, my wife's half-brother. At least, that's what I thought he was. They never really acted like siblings. I always chalked it up to weird family dynamics. He called her M, not sis, and she never introduced me to his dad. They only saw each other a few times a year. But when they did, something about the energy was off. Not romantic, no, but tense, guarded. Like they were sharing something behind glass that no one else was allowed to touch. After that photo, I couldn't sit still. I drove straight to Jared's old building. He wasn't living there anymore. I knew that. But the landlord remembered me, and after some smooth talking and a borrowed lie about leftover tools, he let me into the unit for 5 minutes. It was stripped bare, except for one thing. Taped inside the kitchen cabinet, behind where the plates used to go, was a photo strip. One of those cheap mall booth sessions for black and white frames. 2 people, Maribel and Jared, laughing, cheek to cheek, her lips against his jaw in one. Not a kiss exactly, but not the kind of thing you do with a half-brother either. I felt the floor tilt under me. My brain didn't want to believe what I was seeing, so it filled in excuses. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe there's some explanation. But deep down, something snapped. Whatever this was, it wasn't just betrayal. It was something I had no name for. Something worse than lies. It was intimacy carved out of my blind spots, built behind layers of stories I had accepted as harmless for years. I left that apartment without the photo strip. I didn't need to keep it. I couldn't, because what I'd just seen would never leave me anyway. She asked to meet at the lake. Not our house. Not Owen's. Not a restaurant. The lake. The one with the little dock where we used to go in the early years, back when we still thought long silences meant comfort and not distance. I agreed. When I got there, she was already waiting on the bench, wearing a sweatshirt 2 sizes too big, hair pulled back like she hadn't slept. I didn't say anything as I sat down next to her. Just waited. For once, she didn't waste time pretending. I lied about a lot of things, she said, staring out over the water. But not everything. And I think I owe you the part one never told anyone. She told me about Jared. That he wasn't her brother. That he never was. Her mother had an affair with his father when she was in high school. No one in the family ever talked about it. When they reconnected in their 20s, they used the half-sibling story as cover so no one would ask questions, including me. It started out as something complicated but innocent. Then it wasn't. I asked if she was still in love with him. She shook her head, almost too quickly. No, but I was. And I hated myself for it. She went quiet again. I waited. Everett was a distraction. A safe one. I thought if I poured myself into that world, the career, the image, I could suffocate the parts of me that were broken. I didn't say I understood. Because I didn't. Not really. But I no longer felt like I needed to. She apologized. Truly. Not in that half-hearted, self-pitying way people do when they want to shift guilt. She owned every piece of it. The lying. The distancing. The way she weaponized my kindness against me to make her chaos feel normal. And then, she surprised me. I signed the papers, she said. I'm not going to drag this out. I hadn't even filed yet. There's something else, she added. I found a therapist. I'm moving to Portland next month. I don't want to keep running in circles. You deserve better than to be the collateral damage in my mess. It was the first thing she'd said in years that sounded like it came from a place deeper than survival. We sat there for a while in silence. Not the cold kind we'd grown used to, but something quieter, cleaner, like the end of a storm. I didn't forgive her that day, but I forgave myself. For staying too long. For trying too hard. For believing that loving someone was enough to fix what they refused to face. And that was the real ending. Not her confession. Not the photo. Not even the envelope that landed on my windshield. The real ending was me walking away from that bench feeling lighter than I had in years, because I finally put down a weight that was never mine to carry in the first place. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all.